started. Panel. What we get from these guys is basically the first assertion on the first place that this debate is not about pragmatics, of course, but they still come to like frame this debate in a way that ultimately renders opposition in a position whereby if we stand by them, the debate can ultimately not continue. So these guys come to talk about, the debate is dealing about humans. So these guys ultimately come to talk about how you harvest something for some people when they are dead, and you come to push forward the case of getting consent from their families. So let's examine the nature of the exact thing we are talking about that will be harvested. Obviously, it is regrettable how this debate boils down to this particular now examining the technology and everything. But what these guys talk about, like how they only harvest kind of thing when people are dead, is what like results in this kind of. So obviously, when we're talking about body organs, then definitely you can get this from people that are dead. But when we're talking about like intrinsic characters, intrinsic traits and features, it is very problematic. Of course, if we maintain the stance that we get this kind of thing from dead people and follow this line of getting consent from their family members and the likes, but even if this is the stance on the first place, we even examine that particular point on getting consent from their family members and how it is very problematic. So, to the extent that a person exists and take decisions that affect the person's life over time, we think it is only reasonable for us to stop acting on that particular person based on consent where the person cannot continue to give his consent on that particular thing. We think it is very unreasonable for us to assume that other people around him who probably might have even caused his death in various places will be the best actors to take decisions in his own best interest. We think like on this level, even if we assume that their whole point on taking a dead person as the subject of this debate, even if we assume that it is correct, though we do not concede that at all, we think their particular point on how the consent should be gotten is something that is very, very wrong. So their whole stance is how we want to increase moral, the level of morality in society by getting morality from some and like selling to others. So obviously, intrinsic features are like background peculiarities, something that only exists once, and they are not something that can be easily grown again. And so when you sell this kind of thing, it ultimately amounts to you giving up that particular trait, giving up that particular feature like forever. So when you take this in their point on increasing the level of morality society, we do not think it really happens on their side, because when you get this trait from one person, the trait of morality as the only thing that you talk about, when you get this trait from one person and you give it to another person, ultimately and this person does not have this trait again. I do not think there is any way with multiplicity of the morality standard in society exists in that kind of thing. So seeing that as like the mainly reasonable argument they bring, we go to our point. So we told that generally, obviously, when people have property, they should be given the right to act on it the way they like. But some properties exist going by their nature, not commodities. This property should not be treated as particular. So we'll first talk to you in principle how the commoditization of some particular types of property is found. So property, of course, like landed property and some assets and some other things, of course, we believe should be allowed to be commoditized. But in this kind of subject matter of business, we think like it being something that is very important. We think like the issue of money should not be brought into it because of like the following reasons. So one, we think like consent is very important on this kind of particular level. So and when money is involved, we see how it shapes decision, and we do not get like the best rational decision, even for the person making that kind of decision and getting the money for himself. So what we get in this kind of place when we get the consent from people like this after they have been introduced to getting money and giving up these traits, is like very wrong nature. So let's even take them at their best that people have. Let's even assume this consent was absolutely, but let's say it's a perfect and right consent. So we talk about like how it trivializes the invaluable nature of such properties. So properties exist in society that obviously or justifiably we can give up and collect, we can give up on monetary grounds and even on other grounds. But this kind of property, like being of its like invaluable nature, considering how you get it through either like natural process or very rigorous like societal shaping, which takes a lot of time, this property like stands in a position of like invaluability and should not be commoditized at all. If you do this, we are trivializing its very nature. Yes, please.
Okay. We won't harvest these traits when they are alive because we still need them to live. It's only one when they are dead.
Panel, of course, recognize how the motion response about the perfectness that exists in the mechanism, in the technology. So obviously these guys come to talk about when you remove something they will die or something, or now using that particular reason to talk about like you only harvest these traits when they are dead. We think it is something that is very problematic and it's not fair in this kind of thing. So let us talk about like how exactly as I have been showing in this bit, how when people live, when people are existing either with or without their consent, how it is not reasonable for us to commoditize the type of property we are talking about exactly. We have talked about it like on three levels already. The last thing I'm talking about is like the wrong distribution of such traits. So the hands in which these traits get to, going by the fact that they probably have the financial power or the likes, is something that we are not, that we do not really feel safe with. So the fact that the intrinsicness of this particular kind of trait is what we should not give up for money because of its very importance. So it exists in just one person. He has actually been created with that kind of thing, or he has gotten that kind of particular trait from societal framing, from societal shaping. It's not something that can be easily gotten back. We think it is very bad and it amounts to wrong distribution for us to look. So alternatives ultimately exist apart from what these guys could invent in this way. And to the extent that we defend this alternative, when people, if we really want to dispute morality, when people have societal factors that is corrupting their morality, it's something that can be easily fought. Of course, we cannot fight the natural source. We can get like other things from this from shaping, from societal shaping.